Wait, are you are you gonna count me in? Whatever. I'm just gonna go for it. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and as a child of the 80s, I'd love to say queens rule, but they don't. Queens lead. Being a queen means you are worthy to be a leader of people. The guests on our show do exactly that. They are leading the way in their businesses, families, and communities. And they're taking their rightful place in the spotlight, leading and inspiring the developing queens in all of us. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast.
Now here's your host, Amy Singleton, the queen of realness, leading conversations about business, life, and the real shit you want to know.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and today we have a lovely Chicagoan. I always love to speak to people from New York and Chicago. It's just my vibe. But Katie O'Malley, she has gone out of her way to become an absolute icon in leadership, educating, career coaching, helping people see their potential across the workplace, whether they're a small business owner, whether in the corporate setting, or they're just in a position when they want to learn how to move up. She has gone to get her master's degree in counseling, which I think is very apt for people in business. We need a coach as much as we need a counselor. So I'm very excited to have you here today, Katie. Welcome.
Oh my gosh, Amy, that introduction's making me blush, calling me iconic.
Please.
I will take it. Thank you.
You are. Absolutely. Well, I mean, your work speaks for itself, but tell us just a bit more about you and kind of what you're doing today.
Absolutely. So coming to you live from the West Loop of Chicago. It's where some of the best restaurants our city has to offer is. Moved here about 2 months ago to this neighborhood following a recent divorce. And so that has been a big transformation in our lives. And I talk about it because we are humans that happen to work, not workers who happen to be human. And so we need to be able to honor and bring what's happening with us everywhere we go without allowing it to cause harm to others, right? Because
absolutely.
When we're stressed, when leaders are stressed, colleagues, it's really hard to self-monitor. It's just simply not the priority. And so for me, I think right now in this moment, we're experiencing a lot of upheaval in the labor market, right? And the job market, we're seeing a job market that's basically been frozen since last summer. And now it's flooded with federal employees that have nowhere to go but the private sector. And so really helping my clients to understand and be realistic about what is ahead if they want to leave their job, pivot their job, if they're already looking for work because they're unemployed or underemployed. And then helping folks really get ready for when that moment strikes of opportunity. And so what the research shows, and I think this is so important, Amy, is our careers, our professional careers will be disrupted 7 times throughout our lives. And whether that disruption comes from your company, your organization, the government, or it comes from yourself, my question always is, are you going to be ready when that moment arrives to know where you want to go, be ready when someone reaches out with an opportunity?
Hey, you got my brain moving now because I'm going like, how many times has everything... Like, how many times has it all blown up in my face? I'm going, okay, probably 4. So like there's 3 more coming. Oh God.
Potential, right? It's just an average. And I don't even know.
I'm above average, Katie. So that means there's going to be like 10 for me. No.
Hopefully all by your own choice, right?
Right.
You are
absolutely.
Disrupting yourself.
That's right. Let's have more control this time, right?
Yes. And gosh, Amy, I don't even think I'm answering your question anymore. I just started talking about.
No, it's good. I love that we're done. We're just digging right in. I mean, I would much rather have a good conversation that people want to hear than some scripted BS anyway. So let's talk about that because, okay, a very close friend of mine was actually laid off from a government contracting job. Now, this was before the new leadership took over. This was actually just before all of that.
Okay.
And that person has been unemployed, I mean, with full-time work for almost 18 months.
Yeah.
Now, very smart individual, does not have a bachelor's degree. Very smart individual, has very proprietary experience at, a major government entity. And it has been a flat out struggle. So if I'm watching this very intelligent person who's got great people skills, amazing empathy, can learn anything on the fly, have trouble with putting in dozens and dozens, and I mean dozens of applications, what is going on? Because I'm hearing that from my friends looking for work, but also from the business owners, situation. I'm also going like, I'm not getting very many people. And then also I'm hearing, I don't have time to call them back. So like, what really is happening?
We have a broken hiring system for all stakeholders and all participants, right? And
I'll agree with that for sure.
I think there's a couple of things. One, it's even hard to believe that the pandemic kicked off just about 5 years ago, and we saw the Great Resignation take hold.
Unbelievable to me. 5 years? Holy crap.
5 years, and then saw the Great Resignation start to take off in about 4.5 years ago. And so I think part of what is really concretized in people's minds is this idea of just growth in the job market, the labor market that is up and to the right constantly. And that was the anomaly. The Great Resignation, that was the anomaly, not necessarily what we're experiencing right now. Labor markets have been frozen before, they've been flooded before, they've been frozen and flooded at the same time. But it feels so much more acute based upon this really, what's the word that I'm looking for? This really opportunistic time for folks to be able not just to make one move, but multiple moves and see their salary increase 20, 30, 40%. Right. And what we're seeing is the safer bet is to stay where you are than it is to make a move. And so for your friend, the research is showing, and this came out of MIT back in 2024, is that it's taking an average of 5 months for someone who is fully employed to find a new job. Now, this is pre-current administration, and 10 months for someone who is unemployed. And so those numbers are not improving, right? They're definitely not getting better with the changes that we've seen. And so again, just averages. But if you are someone who's looking to make a move and your workplace is not causing you harm, stay.
I'm hearing stay. Well, I mean, that's what they told us back in the 80s and 90s anyway. My parents were like, don't you dare quit a job before you have another job. That was like the rule. But okay, this is wild. I didn't know that we were going to get into like a sociology and economics talk, but I feel like a lot of stuff has happened, right, Katie? Like we had COVID. We've also had during COVID, lots of people, like you said, we had like the great exit. Lots of people went home. Work from home was a big thing. People also we're spending a lot more time on social media. So we're starting to see these influencers like Gary Vee go, get out there and go garage sale and make your own way. And YouTubers are making money and kids are making money and people, I mean, it's just like a blue ocean of opportunity. But now, I don't know about in Chicago, but here in Oklahoma, we're starting to see companies edge back toward come back to the office. They're making it so uncomfortable for people to work from home now that they're starting to peel off people. We have AI coming in. We have Doge with the government coming in. We have a new administration. Everything is up in the air, and we were expecting the economy to swing up. And I mean, in some ways it did. And then in some ways it's made it really difficult for the average person to get milk or send their kid to football camp or whatever it is. All of a sudden we're going, what the hell is going on? So there's so many different factors moving into that's really wild to hear 10 months. Yeah. Do you think it's just because there are less seats?
There aren't less seats. Just no one's
so.
no one's moving seats. That's the issue, because folks are, so according to Gallup, 51% of American employees are actively looking for a new job.
51%?
51%.
Holy
No one
crap.
is leaving their job, though, out of fear of being the last one in, first one out, but also because the new offers aren't as lucrative as they were 3 and 4 years ago. My gosh, I'm really going to leave and abandon all of the social capital I built, the credibility I built, the brand I built, to go rebuild it for a 5% increase and no improved benefits. And so there's also that piece happening as well. And in addition, I know we call it the great resignation, the great exit. I also call it the great talent grab. So we saw a lot of companies creating these jobs just to grab talent, so their competitors couldn't have that talent. And it's why we saw the layoffs that we saw with tech and media companies back in late 2023, early 2024. And so, to your point, the 5 months for finding a new job if you're fully employed, 10 months if you're unemployed, that research was from early 2024, not improving now. And for your friend, part of me thinks about the differences between the public sector and the private sector, how we translate a skill set, right? To really make it transferable, because like you said, she is brilliant, but a lot of proprietary focused knowledge. The skill sets aren't proprietary though, right? How are we creating resumes that really are skill forward? So more of a functional resume instead of a chronological one, where someone will be like, oh, you spent your career at the federal government. Clearly there's no match here, versus, oh, the first thing I see on your resume is this ability to execute on a strategic vision, and all of these examples of how you did that when you were working for the Fed. That's going to catch someone's attention, right? Wow. And so just one of those ideas, if you're making a big pivot, instead of using a chronological resume, using a functional resume to highlight skills. And on the employer side, skills-based hiring is important these days. You were even saying it, like, I need to hire folks and I'm not seeing the skill set that I need in the candidate pool that I have. Then it becomes about looking at hiring for potential. Has this person demonstrated that they can learn and apply a new skill? Do they have learning agility at the level that I need them to have it to be a good employee for me?
Yeah, for sure.
And so knowing, because you said things are changing so fast, I believe people want to reskill and upskill, but the changes are happening at such a rapid clip. It's like, what do I focus on any longer? And then it just becomes overwhelming on top of, now I want to look for a new job, but I can't do that till I have this skill. And it just feels onerous.
Yeah. Even and I've noticed, especially in the trades, having to train people up I was talking to a client yesterday. There's a special certification that one of their departments requires. And the minute they get the person in, they get them trained up, and 4 months later, they're going out and trying to do their own thing. And, you and I both know so much goes into that, and culture. I'm so tired of hearing the word culture, even though it is important. I think we have such a misunderstanding of what it really means. It's not some words on the wall. How do people feel when they are engaged in working with you and your team? How do they feel? We just we hold a lot of conferences, and we just returned from Arkansas from our first annual Scale with Stability conference. And one of our keynote speaker at the end, we had a couple of Shark Tank people there, and Willie and Corey Robertson from Duck Dynasty. But for me, the crowning moment was Dr. Gary Chapman, the author of the 5 Love Languages. He and his partner, who you are probably really familiar with, Dr. Paul White, he's Appreciation at Work, right? They co-wrote Appreciation at Work, which is the 5 love languages essentially expressed at work. And it's all about how we're making people feel. And it's not a pizza party. It's not, it's not these things. It's not even words of affirmation, because people are so tired of being told, good job. I mean, what are we, dogs? Good job, good job, good job, good job. How can we be more intentional with the way that we're making our, our peers and our, not just our subordinates, but those up, down, lateral, across, those we work with on the team? How can we make them feel like they want to continue to be a part of that team? And in addition to what you said, I've heard many people say before, and this is the way we do it: we hire the person, not the role, because we can teach you a role, we can teach you, but we want to make sure those values are right on every time.
Yeah. And I love that you just used the word values, because for me, like you said, the values on the wall, the words on the wall are not what make a culture.
Right.
But I think if companies and organizations took their core values and said to their employees, this is what we need to see you demonstrate. And we know you're demonstrating these core values when you engage in these 3 behaviors under excellence.
Right.
That's 3
right.
behaviors under courage, or these 3
right.
behaviors under relationship building, or whatever it happens to
Yes.
be. And then they're actually rewarded for that, instead of how many widgets they make or widgets they sell and whatever harm they caused along the way to their colleagues and peers to do that. That's culture. Culture is behavior that gets repeated over time, not by one person, but a group of people. So how are you rewarding and recognizing your employees for behaving in ways that align with those values, not just for their quantifiable performance?
Yeah, absolutely. For the people that they are. And I think you're right on with that clarity of, well, we are kind here at Hike Digital. Well, what the hell does that mean? I mean, not frowning at people, or does it mean we smile when someone walks through the door? We always answer the phone this way. We go above and beyond, and here's what that means. I mean, they have to. I'm hearing more and more, especially in the nonprofit space and in small businesses that just aren't at that like level where they have the capability of bringing in experts to lead them. They're not getting what they want out of their employees, but they also aren't telling their employees what they expect. Not only just in their roles, but in their behavior and attitude as well. Like they kind of just expect this transfer of knowledge, and there's just not.
We're not mind readers. We're not. And I never know who to attribute this to, because I feel like these 3 big players all say it, whether it's Adam Grant, Brene Brown, Simon Sinek. Clear is kind.
That's
and
right.
so
Yes.
often, Amy, I think people conflate clarity and candor and directness as something that is negative, and something that is mean, when in fact, in communicating in those ways, you're setting your employees up for success. They want to succeed. They want to do well. They just don't know how, because the clarity of expectation isn't there and it hasn't been delivered in a candid way.
Yeah. And they're also not measured. Their performances so often are not measured on measurable outcomes. And, it's just kind of, how do we feel? Are you a 1 through 5? Well, okay, everybody's a 3 and everybody gets the 2%, move on. That's never going to help people, to grow into what you're wanting them to be. And I mean, and that's our job as leaders, right? Is to equip other leaders. Like if we have to open those floodgates of what we're building into ourselves and let it flow out. And unless we're giving people that autonomy to speak and have some say so in how they engage, then it's not going to happen.
Well, and the safety to say so, right?
Yes.
So psychological safety, a big thing that is missing from a lot of workplaces right now. And I don't think it's intentional. I don't think people are out there being malicious on purpose. But I do think this piece of what it means to work and what the purpose of work is. I always tell clients who are looking to make a change in their career, work needs to have at minimum a net neutral impact on your life, right? So when you leave the office, it is not negatively impacting who you are when you walk through the door at home, meet someone for that happy hour, go on vacation, be with your family, whatever it
Yeah.
happens to be. At minimum, it needs to be neutral. At best, work is enhancing our lives, right? So
Yeah.
it's disappointing, not surprising. And then we see it's been so interesting. And I don't know if you've been experiencing this at height, but if we talk about the economy and the impacts that the recent changes and decisions have been having, yes, it feels very high level. But then suddenly, when you're not allowed to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and it feels like almost anything, including leadership development, could fall under that. Suddenly, that programming disappears or the budget for that programming disappears. When in truth, leaders who are sitting in that middle, reporting up, having people report to them are the ones who are struggling the most in work right now because it's too much and they're not well resourced enough, nor are they being given the tools and the education to be as effective as they possibly could be. And so we've had some clients who have said, you know what, we're not allowed to spend any money on external vendors doing learning and development, doing leadership development. We have to bring it all in-house. And we're going to continue to see trickle downs like that, not just in this particular field or vertical, but I think across the board, which then to your point around folks looking to go out on their own, I think are going to be met with challenges that they weren't expecting to be met with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when anyone who starts a business, whether it's a roofer, a plumber, or a CPA, that's the thing they're good at, right? And I see it again and again, especially in sales teams. They're great at sales, and they're moved into a leadership position in sales manager, or they just keep getting promoted because they know the business, but they don't know how to lead. They don't know how to market. They don't know how to lead a team or develop a process or anything like this. And without some intentional development, it things will fail. There are so many pieces of a business that you have to balance, but everything comes back down to the people, whether it's leadership, your team, your clients. I mean, we're all people, right? And that's the key piece, and it's where everyone should start, but unfortunately it's the thing that usually falls to the bottom.
Which is going to drive their bottom line
right
to the bottom as well. And it's being able to quantify that, I find, is also very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Give them the data, show them the numbers, right?
Tell
me, okay, I hear this all the time, and I think you probably have an interesting perspective on this because you have worked in the corporate world. You are a business owner now. You work with small business owners and business leaders and people within the business, both. Like you see it both. You see the entrepreneur, you see the intrapreneur. Work-life balance. Is there such a thing? And is it different for an entrepreneur versus someone who is in that 9-to-5 space?
Okay. Very, very big loaded question there. Work-life balance, is it a thing? Let me start by saying, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Not because we don't want it to be, but we live in a society that really prizes work, going all the way back to when our country was founded and hard work at that. And so even when we have the choice over whether or not we are going to answer that email at 10 o'clock at night or pick up that phone call on the weekend, technically we have free will. We have a choice as to whether or not we do it. But if we don't, what happens? Then that worry and the stress and the anxiety creeps in. They're going to think I'm not a team player. They're going to think I don't work hard. In this economy, can I really risk that? And so I don't think work-life balance is the way to really think about it if you want to have a full integrated life. And so what I mean by that, and you even talked about return to office mandates, right? Or employers making it so uncomfortable to work from home, or saying, if you don't come in 3 days a week, you won't have a chance for a promotion, right? Talk about not as like, so a culture of fear, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
All of all of these pieces, I think what people and the way that our society has been set up all the way down to when school starts and ends, right? It doesn't work for the student. It doesn't work for the parent. It doesn't work for the educator.
Right.
We need to have more of an integration and flexibility. So I, for the most part, do not believe working from home is what people want. What people want is autonomy. What people want is flexibility. And what they want is agency over their lives.
Yeah,
And so to
for
be
sure.
able to say, I am going to be at every team meeting that we have, and we're going to do these in person because it's meaningful and we know that it matters.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a load of laundry in the middle of the day and run to Costco on a Tuesday at 11 a.m. because it's empty then. And if that means that as a woman who is single and without kids, I'm choosing to be on my couch on Friday night from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m., getting the rest of that work done that is not so client facing, then that's what I'm going to do because it made the rest of my life easier. And I think
completely agree. Yeah.
Efficiency is also something our society values, and the ease of being able to do this. I was thinking about Amazon. I mean, it's hard not to think about Amazon. It's just omnipresent.
Everywhere. Right.
But I can't remember when this campaign started, but the campaign with the easy button. And I remember thinking, even my friend who had started, this had to have been more than 10 years ago, ordering diapers and cleaning supplies from Amazon. I'm like, just go to the store. Why are you waiting 2 days for this to arrive? Not recognizing as a working single mother how much easier that made her life.
Oh my gosh.
And so when I go in and visit employers, for example, McDonald's, so they recently, not super recently, but moved their headquarters from Oak Brook, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, into the heart of the city. I can walk to it in 10 minutes from where I live now. And my nephew works there, and he took me on a tour and brought me all around. And even the way that office is set up, he's like, people seem pretty happy to come in. No one's tracking whether we come in our 3 days a week, but they have laundry service on site, an exercise facility on site. They encourage folks to use the stairwells, and the stairwells are in the center of the office, and they are not straight up and down. So you can't be looking at your phone, responding to emails when you're using the staircase. You have to interact with your fellow colleagues and peers. And so when even on a return to office, if you are still finding ways to try and make your employees' life easier, they will come back. But it's holy cow, now I have to pay for my coffee. Now I have to pay for my lunch. Now I have to pay for someone to walk my dog and to pick up the kid. Like, we got accustomed to seeing what it could be like. And so instead of work-life balance, allowing for this integration and trusting the person that you hired to do the job that you hired them for. Otherwise, my question is, why did you hire them? If you're going to make sure that they are here at 9 and they leave at 5. I don't know. I just rambled.
It doesn't work.
Apologies.
No, that's very good. And I think that comes back down to who are you hiring, right? Like you said, if you're hiring someone that can be trusted to do that, again, why are you hiring? I want to switch gears a little bit, because this is how we normally start the podcast, but we just sort of jumped right in. I want to know about, and this is always perfect with someone about my age, because I'm finding more and more that when people say get out of your own way, I didn't know what that meant. I've been to so many events, so much therapy, so all of these things. And it kind of has dawned on me in the last couple of years, I'm getting in little girl me's way. Yeah. That's whose way I'm in. I am in her way so big. And when I step out of the way and go back to who I was when I was a little girl, that's when the magic happens. That's when things really start to click for me. So I want to hear about little girl Katie and how it's affected who you are right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So in preparation for our time together, I actually pulled a photo of 8-year-old Katie.
I love it.
Hold it up here. Can we see?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And
I
so
love it.
when I found this, and I use this picture on the About Me slide, whenever I'm introducing myself to
Yeah.
a new group or speaking at a conference. And I put that up for the reason that you're talking about. When I honor the
Mhm.
girl with the flamingo glasses and the headband and mismatched accessories, and asking my family, oh my gosh, was this Halloween? Was I trying to be Madonna? And they're like, no, you would just come down and try and go to school this way, because this is how big you were, right? How much personality you had. Um, when I honor that and all of the creativity and the ideas that that little girl had, and also the directness and the brashness, and I'm going to own it, bossiness with my friends.
Yes.
And, um, there are huge wins that come when I let her out to play and don't show
Yes.
up in the way that society wants me to be, which is
Mhm.
small, apologetic for who I am.
Mhm.
Um, and it's hard when we are not living in congruence with who we are.
Mhm.
We experience mental health challenges ranging from anxiety and depression, to potentially moving towards addiction, because we have to then numb the pain
Yeah.
of not being who we really are. And
Mhm.
so, being this little girl, so at 8 years old, still had both parents, my mom and my dad, and my mom passed away about 4 years after that photo was
Mhm.
taken. And then it was just me and my dad, and there were ways of being that were expected now,
Mhm.
for me, that
Yeah.
were very much grow up. You don't have a mom. You got to figure it out for yourself. There are ways to
Mhm.
be a woman in this world. And
Mhm.
it just really turned me into, well, I've always had this thread of altruism that's pulled through my life and wanting to positively influence those around me, make meaningful
Mhm.
change in the world. This girl stopped behaving in ways that would also make that possible, right? And instead, I don't wanna ever say that I conform to what society expected of me, because if I did, I wouldn't have the career path that I've had and be here as an entrepreneur today. But I think it made the first 15 years of my career much harder than it had to be, because I was
Yeah.
expending so much time, effort, and energy trying to be what the world and society wants women to be at work and in
Mhm.
life, instead
Mhm.
of just being me. And that energy expenditure kept me in a lot of ways from being able to invest in my own development.
Yeah.
I was contorting myself into a pretzel every day to
Mhm. Yeah.
invest in the projects and tasks and priorities and responsibilities that really needed my focus,
Yeah.
so that I could be what people expected instead
Yeah.
of what was going to get the job done, which is this Katie.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So, I mean, so was it the moment, was it when your mother passed that got smashed? That was that, or was there another moment that you remember when that the voice in your head started telling you to be less, sit down, be quiet, be whatever, all those things?
It started the day of my mother's funeral, and so
Mhm.
I'm 12 years old, and I knew she had been sick. Um,
Mhm.
my family just never told me how sick she was, and those were her
Mhm.
wishes. Again, late
Yeah.
80s, early 90s, we're doing the
Right.
best
Yeah.
we can with
That's right.
no knowledge of mental health and psychology and
Right.
child development
Totally.
like we have access to now,
Right. Yeah.
so freely. And I didn't find out she was dying until the day before she died. And so, what
Oh
I've
my
learned through
God.
therapy and counseling is that what I saw as grief portrayed by the adults around me, these were folks who had come to terms with the fact that she was going to die for over a year. And
Wow.
so that part for me was, I didn't understand that at 12. So
Yeah.
it is the day of my mom's funeral. She loved Oh my gosh, Amy, she loved to watch me dance. I was a ballerina, jazz,
Mm.
tap, and even though these silly recitals that were 4 hours long and I'd be on stage for 4 minutes, she
Yeah.
just loved it. And she loved
Mhm.
seeing me on stage, and she would always say, you know, I would never have the courage or confidence to do something like that. And so
Aw.
on this day, I turned on this brand new CD player, put in, gosh, I think it was probably a Madonna CD, and I started
Yes.
dancing. My dad walks in the room, turns it off, and says, "We don't dance on days like today." And I never took another dance class again after that. And it started there. It was with things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and the next time that I really realized I had been, I don't even want to say hiding who I was, just ignoring
Yeah. Mhm.
the thing that made it so easy for me to move through the world until about 12
Yeah.
years old,
Yeah.
was when I was working in commercial real estate. And it was just a mismatch of values. It was a mismatch of talent. It was a toxic work environment for me. It's not a toxic work environment for everyone because people have
Right.
different strengths and values, right? But
Yeah.
that really took a toll on my mental health and well-being because it was not in alignment with who I knew myself to be, even as an
Yeah.
adult, much less that young
Yeah.
baby, and ended up
Yeah.
taking a medical leave of absence from work for my mental health in 2012. And
Yeah.
it was unheard of at the time. Um, and not only were we not talking about mental health except to stigmatize it, we definitely weren't talking about employers' responsibilities to their employees' mental
Mhm.
health. And it was during that time I realized I'm not the only person struggling with this little girl who had all of these different ideas and aspirations about who she was going to be and did all the right things and followed all of the rules and checked all the boxes. And now here I am sitting in a cubicle getting sexually harassed, and this is it? Like
Yeah.
planning someone's family's trip to Disneyland and writing book reports for their how did I get here? Uh,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
so, yeah, that was the second big moment. I'm like, I realizing it wasn't just me was really powerful.
Mhm. How did you so that happened in 2012? You
Mhm,
realized it then?
mhm.
Wow, you're so far ahead. Like, I don't know how we're the same person, but, like, my also, like, breakdown happened in 2012, but mine lasted to, like, 2014, 15. Like, it was a few solid chunk of years that was just bad, like, so bad, like, everything just rock bottom. But what was that light bulb moment for you that you went, "I'm ignoring her, and I gotta start taking steps out of this funk?"
Yeah, it was I mean, I
Or
was
was there a moment? Like, did you
I
read
think
something? Did
it
someone
was a culmination of
Yeah,
moments, and then it
yeah.
was the decision to go back to school and get my master's degree in counseling to help people at the
Mm,
intersection
okay.
of career identity and mental health, right?
Mm,
And
mhm.
so like you, have been in therapy for a lot of years and a long
Yay,
time.
therapy.
The best therapy I ever had was going through a master's degree
Yeah,
and education in how to become a therapist because the bulk of it is making sure that you are well enough to not
yes,
cause harm to your clients. And you
yes.
don't get it. By the end, I'm like, if I have to write one more reflection paper, like I really thought I was going to be, not that we weren't, in the library, reading books,
Mhm.
researching the latest and greatest out of the journals. All of that
Yeah,
happened. But almost every paper that we were asked to write, we were writing about it through the lens of ourselves. How does this theory apply
wow,
to me? How does this
wow.
skill, how could someone else
Yes,
leveraging this skill with me change the way that I saw myself, right? And so it
okay,
wasn't
yeah.
just regurgitate these theories and
So good.
practices and
Yeah,
this evidence, it was how would this have changed you and how can this change you now that you know
okay.
it? And that was what let me get back to, and it was even things, Amy, like what ideas did you have about gender roles, like going through family systems therapy
Wow.
and realizing, oh, I remember everyone patting my dad on the back. God, being a single dad and you're leaving work early to go to one soccer game out of the 25 that she has, right? Or you're helping out with the carpool this one time, and just the praise and adoration that came along with it. And if it had been reversed and my dad had passed and not my mom, no one's given her props. People are judging her probably for not having her makeup done while she's doing it.
Yeah.
And
They'll call it the one time she doesn't show up for
or
the
the
thing.
one time she doesn't after doing it 24 out of the 25
That's
times.
right.
And
Yeah.
I think for me, it was in writing that paper and going through that class, I realized what had happened, that turning point and what had happened as a result. To little,
Damn girl, where'd you go to school?
it
wasn't down here.
I mean, it was hard, but it was.
Where did you go? Chicago?
DePaul University. And so that was funny too. My GRE scores had just expired from when I had taken them in 2007. And DePaul was a test optional school. And had they not been test optional, I might not be here today able to have these conversations with you.
Girl, I should have went to therapist school instead of nursing school. All we were doing was starting IVs on each other and putting in feeding tubes down each other's noses, which they would never do these days. But they were doing that back in 2000. I'll tell you that. Oh my gosh. But I feel like, what's crazy is that, like, okay, you did it a lot faster and for probably a lot more money. But I don't know. I paid a lot for for coaches and masterminds and and therapy and mindset coaches. But I also learned the same thing. It took me longer, but I learned that I was so depressed that I had to start taking steps. And Katie, when I tell you my first step was to my mailbox to check my mail, I'm not joking. Like, it had been weeks since I'd left my home. I had been drunk. I had been not beating myself, not bathing, nothing. And people are like, how did you go from here to on a Times Square billboard? And it did one freaking step at a time. And what's really interesting about this, someone said this to me at the event we were just at. She's being mentored or coached by someone who is a different gender. He is 40 years older than her. He's achieved all of these things. And she's like, dude, I get what he's saying. Like, amazing. But I want to be coached and be led by someone whose footprint is still in the sand. Someone whose foot I can put my foot into. And that gave me a light bulb moment. Like, this is how we help one another. We share these stories. We talk about taking the step to the mailbox and not show us just on the billboard and being the author and being the speaker, but going, here is how it happens. Like, the babyest step of getting to know you. Talking to little girl you, telling her she was loved, she was safe, she wasn't too much. That is her absolute superpower. Like you said, it was so much easier. Wasn't life easier before, like, the ladies started going, shh, quit, too much?
Yeah.
So
and
easier.
the other question that I've started asking myself in moments when I don't know what to do, I say, what does she want? What does 8-year-old Katie want? And what would 80-year-old Katie be proud of? Those are the two questions that I ask when I'm forced to make a tough decision. What does this 8-year-old want? What would 8-year-old Katie make her feel proud? And you're right. It was 3 years in that program. There's in the master's program, but it was baby steps, even just to get there. So to your point, I would, and this is when I realized I needed to take a medical leave of absence. I would wake up in the morning and start crying for one of two reasons. Either because I woke up and I'm like, I can't go through this day again, the way this life is set up. Or it was, it was because it was just so overwhelming. I didn't even know what to do except cry. And nothing had even happened that day. And so on days like that, and being able, now we have language around it, right? So this idea of self-compassion, we give compassion to everybody else all day long. And we never saved any for ourselves because we're different. But we're not. We are the same. And we're not all the same. We are all in the same ocean. We all got different boats, but when those storms come, we're all in the same storm.
That's right. That's right. Wow. Oh my gosh. I can't believe we've gone almost an hour. I just told her before we started recording, we're going to try to keep it to 30 minutes, but we could go on about this forever. I mean, and I know I'm not stupid enough to know that this has been everybody's experience, but I think it's a lot more common than we give it credit for.
Mhm.
And if we would all just lean into those things that we're so good at, that we're so gifted with, and stop trying to hide behind what the world thinks that we, thinks we need to think or whatever, we would all be so much better off. Katie, tell us about your business and who you can serve, please. We've gone all deep in on this, but we know you serve people in businesses, people who have businesses, but what's the best way to work with you? And tell us about how we can do that.
Yeah. So at Encourage Coaching, we are on a mission to elevate employee well-being and employee mental health. And we make good on that mission through 3 different services. The first is individual career coaching. So helping folks re-enter the workforce, pivot out of a toxic work environment, identify a new career path, and we take them from job application all the way through compensation negotiation as they're on that journey. The second way we make good on that is through leadership development, coaching and leadership education, working with folks one-on-one, typically folks that are new managers or folks that are struggling to lead in this very kind of chaotic environment. What we know is the average age someone's promoted to a position of people leadership is 30. The average age they receive any formal leadership education or training or coaching is 42. So there's a dozen years where they are unintentionally causing harm because they weren't set up for success, right? And so coming in to help those people leaders really do right by their employees. So they're not sending them running to therapy whenever they close their laptop or exit the building.
Yes.
But then if you're a micro to small business owner, or even you have a larger company or enterprise, we can come in and work with teams. But essentially, if your individual contributors are struggling and your people leaders are struggling, it is not an employee issue. It's an environment, culture, systems issue. And then we come in. We diagnose the challenges and the root causes so that we can offer a prescription in terms of a learning and development engagement that likely includes leadership development and coaching to help correct for some of that, and also doing the work of, all right, these are your values. What are the behaviors that roll up into them, and how are we creating a system to recognize and reward your employees for those behaviors? And mostly people find me either through being on amazing podcasts like yours or speaking engagements. And so while I love a longer term engagement, also happy to come in and do a keynote talk, and very excited for this June. I'll be delivering a TEDx talk in Boston. And it is called The Attention We Give, Lessons from Listening for a Living.
The attention we give. Oh my gosh. I just heard a speaker at our conference say that is the number 1 currency of this world today is our attention.
Yep, we live in an attention economy, and it is time to reclaim ownership of that currency, because these devices that are pinging us all day long know exactly how to extract it from us without our consent. And
absolutely. They do. God, it's so good. I feel like we could go on for 30 more minutes. What you said about, I've heard, I can't tell you how many business owners or leaders I've heard say, there's something wrong with my team. My team won't, my team can't, my team. And every single time I'm like, okay, you need to talk to someone like Katie. And actually, it doesn't start with your team. Let's get you in here first, and then we can talk about whether or not the team needs some training. They probably do need some training, more likely therapy from the way you've been leading, but it is definitely an overcomable problem. And, the beauty of it is that when you you learn how to lead and you treat your employees well with appreciation and the way they need to receive it, you're going to find that their output and their buy-in and their commitment to you is so much greater than it ever was before. So thank you, Katie, for shining a light on this much needed problem. Congratulations on your TED Talk. I'm so excited to hear it come out. We will be dropping some free links. Katie has got some amazing free resources on her website. So we'll include all of her links here. Katie, where's the quickest way to find you and connect with you?
Yeah, it would be, I would say, hop on to either the website, so encouragecoaching.org, or just shoot me an email, katie@encouragecoaching.org. You'll get me. You won't get a bot. And let's start working together.
No AI here. Katie's the real deal, guys. She's a real human being on this real human experience where we have all kinds of things happen. Thank you guys for listening. And thank you, Katie, for being a queen that leads.
The Queen's Lead podcast is recorded worldwide and produced by the kick-ass media team at the Height Digital home base in Nicaragua. Until our next episode, stay real, Queens, and go lead. Remember to tap that follow and leave your review. For freebies and more real, inspiring content you love, go to amysingleton.net and connect with Amy on her socials at @TheRealAmySingleton.
One more thing. This is the legal language, what my lawyer wrote and what I need to read to you. This podcast is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am Amy Singleton, and I'm just your friend. Although I may speak to many on this show, I am not a psychotherapist, a business coach, a doctor, a CPA, a lawyer, or probably anyone who should be giving you professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for a relationship with your doctor, coach, or any other licensed professional. Got it?